My number three is Legally Blonde from 2001, starring Reese Witherspoon, Luke Wilson, Selma Blair, Jennifer Coolidge, directed by Robert Luketic. And the quick logline on the movie is, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, Elle Woods, a fashionable sorority queen, is dumped by her boyfriend. She decides to follow him to law school. While she's there, she figures out that there is more to her than just looks. Okay, so I put this movie on my list because it kind of reminded me a little bit of my grad school experience. So I guess, yeah, I'm going in, I don't know what order I'm going in, but I'm
Opposite
starting
order
with
too.
grad
Yeah, or you're
school.
starting with grad school.
Uh,
Yeah.
Opposite order, I
Yeah.
guess. But there are some other themes that ring true from this movie on other parts of my college life as well. But for grad school specifically, like I said a little bit earlier, sort of showing up to a brand new country, in a brand new place, and not having much idea of what it's going to be like. All you know is all you're bringing to this new place and new experiences, your gusto and almost, your foolish ambition or foolish excitement, if you will. I mean, that's all you have. I'm not knocking that. Like, that's all you have at that time in your life. So
Right, right,
that's
right.
all you bring. And then when you get there, you realize, oh, I don't even know why I'm here actually, or how the hell did I get in here? Because everybody seems so on it and sharp and smart. And even though I have been smart so far in my life, I suddenly feel kind of dumb and a little bit out of place. And I think there's you as kids, you feel out of place in many different contexts, but I think feeling out of place in the grad school context when you are a little bit older, I think lands on one in a different way, because you
Right.
at that point are supposed to have figured shit out. You've been
Hmm.
living your life in a certain way, and and if you've been lucky to have been afforded opportunities to do well, you kind of get accustomed to that, and then in some ways grad school can be a bit of a humbling experience, and especially if you layer that in with moving to a different country and being
Hmm.
totally new, there are just other layers to parse through. So I think the beginning part of the movie, not the breakup and her following the boyfriend, but just her showing up at law school, like really rings true with me on that, on those feelings. But then also, how she finds her own voice and confidence, and a big part of that is kind of just the friends she makes, and friends she makes in unexpected places. Like, I think the Jennifer Coolidge character at the salon is critical to her arc. I don't think you have Elle Woods' journey if she does
Hmm.
not meet this other person who makes her feel supported but also wanted. It's a
Exactly.
bit of a reminder
Hmm.
that, oh no, Elle, you got your shit in under control. You
Hmm.
are worth something, because she's providing value to Jennifer Coolidge's life in a way, right? So I think that's very important. And I was very lucky to meet people, in my time, especially in the first quarter, people who I didn't know, but people who maybe saw me for who I was, but for whatever reason supported me, appreciated me. And I think those conversations, those casual encounters went a long way and helped me sort of find my own voice. And so yeah, I think all of that rings true really well. I would also call out, the fact that she comes to school or law school is because she's following or chasing this boyfriend who dumped her. It always reminds me, this is not so much true for me in the case of grad school, but in general, falling in love, or what you think is love really, in your school days is a big part of your school experience, so it reminded me of all the dumb
Hmm.
crushes I had during
Mm.
my college days, and most of them were actually, they're not really headed in the right direction. They were
Hmm.
there because you kind of get swept up in the whole, ecosystem of, oh, someone is with somebody and what does that mean, and so it's not, sometimes people do find people, but
Hmm.
at least in my experience, that was not the case. So this movie also reminds me of that a little bit. um but yeah, otherwise, iconic movie. There's not much more I can add. It rings true and keeps sort of evolving as time goes on, and is sort of evergreen, even though it's silly, but there's something about what the movie's trying to say, but really Reese Witherspoon and her performance, I think that kind of carries this movie through. So yeah, that's Legally Blonde, my number 3.
Yeah, this is a film I really like a lot as well. I remember seeing it for the first time back when it came out, and it definitely was one of those movies that I really like, where it's sort of a sleeper hit, like a little movie that could, like, no one ever thought this thing would turn into some major hit. You know, Reese was still a young star who hadn't really made it really at that point. Like, she'd been in a couple things that she was a rising star, but this sort of cemented her, you know, matinee status. So yeah, I really like this film. I think a lot of it does come down to her performance, but also her character. Like, she's playing a blonde, but not a dumb blonde. And it's her blondness, for lack of a better word, and her knowledge of all these things about, you know, fashion in the first scene to prevent some shop girl from overcharging her for something. But at the end, she wins the court case because of her knowledge, you know, as a blonde, right? In terms of her hair care and everything. And so she's staying true to who she is, and she's still able to be successful. And she's not ever letting anyone put a fast one over on her. Like, she's very, very smart, even though she might come off as kind of ditzy. She, you know, is very sure of herself. She's also very forgiving. I mean, I love how, you know, Selma Blair is very mean to her throughout the whole movie, but, you know, she forgives her and lets her in and is a friend with her at the end. Like, she's not someone who holds grudges or is really mean. She's got a really good heart and a good soul. And to see her succeed in this, in the film is really, like, rewarding because of that. Like, she didn't have to change who she was. She just kept being who she is, and that's gave her the success. She's able to be, you know, a blonde and a lawyer, you know, which is what the movie's sort of saying. Like, you can't do this, but
you can't do both.
Yeah, but you know, you can. You totally can. She proved that. So yeah, this is a film that I think is still really fun, really holds up well. I hadn't seen it in a while. It was fun to rewatch. Actually, I totally forgot Luke Wilson was even in it.
Yeah.
Sort of maybe speaks to his screen presence more than it does anything else. But yeah, the other thing too, that this movie for me will always represent college in a personal way. So like I said, I came to LA for college, went to University of Southern California, and it was in my first month of college, they filmed this movie on campus to double as Harvard. And I remember in a Sunday morning walking across campus and seeing the scene where she pulls up to Harvard in, like, her little Porsche, and, like, the dog jumps out and she picks him up. I was like, oh, we're here, in, like, moving van. And I basically watched them film that scene for like an hour and a half. It was just endlessly, like, her driving up, getting out, picking up the dog, reset the scene. So, like, this movie always will remind me of my freshman year of college because I saw them film the scene there. So
that's
amazing. I was like, oh, nice, Legal LeBron. Like, that would a movie I would have put on my list in a very, like, personal, like, superficial way. So I'm glad you did it for other ways, so I could at least mention that to me this is a movie that reminds me of my college days to this day still. Sequel not as good, unfortunately, but I hear they're trying to make a third one, so maybe they're able to rescue the franchise. But this movie's still so enjoyable and hits on all the things that you said too. I think a lot of this stuff reminded me as well in terms of the class structure and the Socratic method and all that of what business school was like too, which is always fun to kind of make fun of how silly that really is at the end of the day.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. No, and I love what you said about kind of, she doesn't have to change herself. She just has to hone in on that. And I think that's so key. And especially when you, in the grad school environment, when you are, you know, a little bit older,
right,
you have shaped yourself in a certain way. And when you come to a new place like this, it's very easy to succumb to the pressures of that, oh, I need to evolve into something that I'm not, which doesn't mean that you don't grow. Of course you grow and you expand your horizon, but you do that on whatever you're standing tall on, you know, that is your superpower. And I think this movie, that's kind of the core of why this movie lives on, is because it's very empowering, you know?
Yes, totally.
So, and everybody can see themselves in this character. And like you said, very important that this character is not a jerk, because often people who are smart and are finding their voices and or are standing tall on who they are, they're often jerks to other people, but she's super kind and just a good person. So yeah, I'm glad this is on the list.
Yeah, me too. I always enjoy talking about this film. It's really a fun one. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes.
Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.